Hey there, Captain Awesome here. I'm making a quick video to just demonstrate what I was working on yesterday. There was a question posed while I was watching the Total Eclipse live stream on Twitch. It was about making a 3-to-4 ratio balancer, where basically you take three lines in all equal and you balance it out to four lines. So so that then the four lines are all equal. And so I did some quick math, and I'm like, this is actually fairly easy. Total Eclipse. He was trying to put it together, but it was midstream. His mind was obviously focused on the stream itself. He was trying to help out. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a try, see what I can do. So I was actually able to come up with a couple of different ideas for this particular problem. So I made some blueprints of it. So first off, the easiest way of doing this, not as compact, is this particular balancer right here. Now, with this one, you have your three input lines, and those three input lines all go into a splitter. Each splitter then splits that line in half, okay? This middle one actually splits in half, but goes straight into mergers. So now each one of these mergers now has half of this line right here. This particular one and this one on the end both split off into a merger and then another splitter. So this one has half. This one has half of this line as well. Same over here. This one has half of this line. This one has half of this line. These splitters then take its half and splits those into quarters, giving this one a quarter and this one a quarter. This one on this side does the same thing. It gives this one a quarter and it gives this one a quarter. So each one of these mergers now has a half of their respective lines and a quarter of their respective lines. Well, except for these two have a quarter of those lines because it's, yeah, you get it. The math is simple. So these are your three lines out, and on the front of each one of these mergers is another belt that is your output. So fairly simple with that. And I figured I could compact that down a little bit more so it's not as stretched out. So I did this one right here, which pretty much, it does the same thing. I just sort of compacted, instead of being stretched out to the sides, compacted it down a little bit so it's a little less cumbersome. You still have the same number of splitters mergers, but then you output here, and then these two on the front, and then over here instead. And the final one that I came up with was this one, which was way more compact. As you can see, it doesn't take up that much space at all, although it looks crazy convoluted. And I know. So let's take a look at it. There's actually pretty much the same number of splitters and mergers in the front of here. There's a couple of splitters on the front, but that's only to make a 90-degree bend from this merger into a item elevator to spit out the front. So those are just a little bit extra, only to trick, because you can't do a belt so close at a 90-degree angle. So how this one works is you have your three inputs all on the bottom here. All three of these inputs then split off. And I used a bit of a trick to get these together. The outside ones here, basically what I did with those was I put the item elevator down, kept it at its default height, made sure that the top one was an output, and then I attached the splitter on the bottom and the merger on the top. And then on the inside, you can actually kind of see that there's an item elevator here, as well as an item elevator here. What I did with this one was I temporarily placed a merger. I nudged it 3 clicks over, and then I was able to place the item elevator pointing to the input on the merger, and that allowed me to squish the item elevator down so that it pulled from the output on this splitter, making it nice and small, compact, and lines right up. And then what I did was deleted the temporary merger, and I attached this merger, which actually looks as though it's stacked, but it's actually attached to the top of this item elevator here. I did the same thing over on this side as well, just reversed the item elevators on the outside, the item elevators on the inside. So what this is basically doing is it's taking these 2 splitters right here and splitting off half of this line and half of this line into each one of these mergers right here. And then what we're doing here in the center is pretty much the same type of thing. I've got an item elevator from the bottom going up to the top splitter. I got an item elevator going from the bottom to the middle splitter. And what these middle splitters are doing is, again, as we had before, you split one line in half and you split it in half again. That gives you quarters. And because we have 4 lines, you got 4 quarters. It just adds up. So what I did here is just pretty easy. I did 2 belts, one from the top going over to the top here, one from this middle going to this middle. That feeds these 2 mergers their additional quarter of items. And then over on this side, it got a little bit tricky on this one. It was very easy. I was able to put a belt in between these 2 right here. So you can't really see it, but there is a belt there. Nope, there it is. See, there's a little belt there. Now, the problem was I didn't really want to do any sort of tomfoolery as far as sending belts here, there, and everywhere that just shouldn't belong. Because, I mean, as you can see on the outside here, we technically have an open hole here, according to the game. But in real physics and stuff, that's not open. There's something in the way. So I can't put any belts or anything like that going here. Same thing on the other side. So I had no open holes, especially because I had to keep the front open on both of these in order to put the outputs out. So I did a little bit of a trick where I took an item elevator, kept it at its normal height, but I attached it to the middle splitter onto its front, had the output going up here, and then I did the same thing over here where I took the middle of this merger, brought it up, angled it, and now I have a belt going here. I didn't squash it into place only because of the fact that I figured I've got these 2 belts sticking out anyway, and there's really no way that I can push those belts in so that they're any flatter. So I was like, it's not really sticking out if you really look at it. So I left it. And it keeps this angle nice and tight. I did try pushing it in, honestly, and because of the distance, it wouldn't allow the belt to actually go through. And I could have put another splitter up there to try to trick it. It would have been nightmare fuel. And so I just went with this. Now, after all the splitting is done, now you have your output. And all the outputs are actually here on the front. What is that? Why are you here? How did you get here? I don't know how that got there, but it hitched a ride. Okay. Probably a failed attempt at something. Anyway, on the front here, we have the fronts coming out. And so the middle ones, I did just a basic squashed item elevator, put it down in the front, and insert it here, so it squashed it down. I did have to do the top first, because otherwise it would want to snap to the top, and I didn't want it to snap to the top. So the top, I just stacked up here a splitter, and have a belt going in between those two. And then over here, out of the splitter, I have an item elevator coming down to the floor. I did that only because I wanted everything to look nice and neat. So having the outputs coming out on the floor, I think would look so much cleaner than just coming out of the front and bending down some belts to the floor that look like, you know, half of an octopus. Or, I mean, the whole thing would look like an octopus minus one leg. Tentacle, not leg. Octopuses don't have legs, just so you know. So I did it on both sides. And I put the splitter there only to be able to do the 90-degree corner into the item elevator. Because otherwise, you can't bend a belt in that sharp of a corner. So you place a splitter, and if you just input and output, it's like creating a 90-degree bend. Doesn't look as pretty as a belt would, but we do what we can. And did the same thing with the item elevator squash there, and it all comes out nice and neat in the front. So I wanted to demonstrate. So I created a little demonstration over here. Now, what we have here is we have a container, and we have 4 containers over there. And I put this splitter here because, let's be honest, if you want something split evenly among 3 things, 1 line into 3, the splitter is the way. That's easy enough. So I wanted 3 even items, and so I'm going to put down. Let's load up our balancer. Here we go. And we'll just put it right here. That works. And now we just need to attach our belts. Remember, folks, straight belts save lives. And we have now these ones. Output in, and in, and in. Oh, dang it. This is what I get for making short demonstration areas. There we go. Okay. Now let's hop back up here. And let's see. I decided on 180 items just to demonstrate this, because 180 goes into 180 is divisible by 3, so it comes out to 60. So we'd end up with 60 items for each belt, which is, you know, that's average. And then 180 is also divisible by 4. That equals 45. So at the end of this, we should have 45 wire in each one of these bins. Items are all distributed. Now let's see what we got. We should have 45 wire there, 45, 45, and 45. Fabulous. That actually worked perfectly. So I'm going to take another moment and reset all of this stuff. I will be right back. And we're back. Everything is all reset. Now let's just try out. We're not going to try out the other balancer, the more compact one. It runs on the same exact principle as the first one that we just showed. So I'm going to go to the compact, the very compact one, and we're going to put it right here. And we need to attach our inputs like so. There's our inputs. And now let's go over to the other side, and we'll get our outputs. Out, out, nope, out. There you go. Out. Beautiful. As I said, it's going to look a little bit like an octopus minus 1 tentacle. Okay, now let's put in our 180 and let's see what we get. Okay, everything has been distributed. And again, we should have 45 in each one. And I'm just going to grab them all now. Yep, that's 45 there. There's 45 there. Grab, take it. Thank you. And there's 45 there. Take that. And there's 45 there. Sweet. So each one of these had 45. Now, I hear what you're saying. What if it's a number that's not divisible by 3? Well, I have such a number. That's not my inventory. It's 500. Now, 500 is divisible by 4, so we should get a nice even number there. But it's not divisible by 3. There could be some slight mess-ups in distributing if the number itself is not divisible by 3. Whatever. So if we take our 500 here, and we slap it in there, and then it goes. And we're done. Sweet. So, 500 is divisible by 4. So each one of these containers should have 125 items in them. 125, 125, 125, and 125. Perfect. So, I will leave a link in the description of this video for these 3 blueprints. Feel free to use them. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this demonstration, and I will see you again sometime later. Bye-bye.